me tell you something about the space station. It's only really there in your imagination. That thing ain't real, it's science fiction. It's there to feed your space addiction. Those astronauts are not in space. It's written all over their stupid face. See, I can spot a lie from 100 miles, and I can spot a fraud from the way they smile. Didn't you learn nothing from the fake moon mission? That puppet show from President Nixon. Well, listen up, they're doing it again, it seems. Check out the harnesses and green screens. I used to work a lot in film and TV. I know a bit about the television trickery to create the illusion that you're somewhere that you're not. A green screen is what you're gonna use a lot. Or if you wear a harness and attach it to the ceiling, the illusion that you're floating is what they'll be believing. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the human race. So let me tell you something about a zero-G plane. This thing flies up and then down again. Some weird stuff happens if you're on the inside. You start to float as the plane takes a dive. Simply add an actor that's trained to deceive, and you got yourself an astronaut, or so you believe. Plane flies up and that's everyone's cue. Then action, we got some deceiving to do. Plane flies down and then everyone knows to start the ISS live show. Floating in a plane with zero-G, but you only see astronauts on your TV. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the human race. Well, another thing I noticed when I looked at these fools, they're filming spacewalks in buoyancy pools. NASA's gonna tell you that it's just for training, to practice for space station maintaining. Well, I thought about that, but if that's the case, then why the hell can I see bubbles in space? Take a hard look at the next spacewalk, and tell me if you can see bubbles at all. Open your eyes, man, I'll bet you a quarter those spacewalks are filmed underwater. I can see space bubbles everywhere. Hey, NASA, how the hell did those get there? All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the human race. So when you see an astronaut aboard the ISS, take another look at your TV set. They're pretty good at faking, so you gotta look close. Pay some attention to the way the actor floats. If you ask me, that ain't zero gravity, but Hollywood effects that I see on my TV. Take a good look at the whole damn thing. These lying bastards are just puppets on a string. It's all a big science fiction puppet show. The game's up, NASHoles, cause we all know. Thanks for the show, NASA. It's been a blast. Now take your fake station and shove it up your... All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the whole human race. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're just actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the whole human race, man. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage. Astronauts, they're actors, of course, and yeah, they all get paid. Look at me, ma, I'm floating in space. No, you're not, you're lying to the whole human race. All you're watching is a puppet show, yeah, the whole world's a stage.
It is a fact, not a theory, that bodies of water always seek and find their own level, from a beaker, a bottle, or a bathtub, to a pond, lake, or an ocean. The natural physics of water and other liquids is to find and remain level. It is an unproven, unscientific theory with no observable, measurable, or repeatable evidence to claim that bodies of water can somehow bend, cling to the exterior of shapes, and show convexity upon their surface. It is a fact that the majority of Earth is covered in such level water, thus making it an unscientific theory to postulate that Earth is actually a gigantic sphere with bendy oceans curving all the way around it. It is a fact, not a theory, that the horizon always appears perfectly flat 360 degrees around the observer, regardless of altitude. All amateur balloon, rocket, plane, and drone footage show a completely flat horizon as high as we can reach, over 20 miles, or 120,000 feet up. The only time the horizon ever bends is when viewed through a fisheye lens or a curved commercial airplane window. It is also a fact that the horizon always rises to the eye level of the observer as altitude is gained, so you never have to look down to see it. If the Earth were in fact a globe, no matter how large, as you ascended, the horizon would stay fixed, and the observer would have to tilt, looking down further and further to see it. It is a fact, not a theory, that we are able to observe objects at incredibly long distances, far beyond what would be possible if Earth were a globe 25,000 miles in circumference, as we're told. For example, it is a fact that in Genoa, Italy, from just above sea level, on clear days, it is possible to see the distant islands of Elba, Gorgona, Caprea, and Corsica, 80 to 125 miles away. It is a necessary theory that the globe Earth must curve 8 inches per mile squared, if it really be a ball 25,000 miles in circumference, as we're told. But based on such a theory, these islands would all be completely hidden behind thousands of feet of curved Earth. In fact, the record-breaking longest distance zoom photograph ever taken recently showed Pic Gaspard from Pic de Finestrelles, a whopping 275 miles away, at a height of under 10,000 feet, where, based on correct curvature calculations, the entire mountain should be invisible behind several miles of curved Earth. It is an observable, testable, repeatable, scientific fact of reality that Polaris, the North Pole star, situated perfectly over the North Pole center of Earth, never moves a single inch, night after night, year after year, century after century, with all the other fixed stars remaining fixed in their relative constellations, revolving perfect circles around Polaris. It is an unobservable, unproven, unscientific theory to claim that thousands of years ago, Polaris mysteriously did move, and Thuban or other stars became the center of rotation. It is also an unobservable, unscientific theory to claim that the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles per hour around an axis, while rotating tens of thousands of miles per hour around the Sun, while the entire solar system circles hundreds of thousands of miles per hour around the Milky Way, and the Milky Way shoots millions of miles per hour more off through infinite space, when we cannot see, hear, feel, or otherwise observe or prove any such motion. and we can see clearly for ourselves Polaris never moving, and all the other stars revolving around it. Not only this, but such circular star trails around an unmoving pole star prove that it is the stars themselves moving, and not the Earth. If the Earth were truly a tilting, wobbling, spinning space ball undergoing these multiple contradictory motions through the universe, you would only see irregular, spiral-shaped star trails, and the night sky would never be the same twice. It would be impossible for constellations to exist whatsoever if Earth were truly undergoing these various theoretical motions. This is just a brief introduction to the many observable, testable, repeatable, scientific facts of our level, motionless plain Earth that have been marginalized, suppressed, and ridiculed for centuries, in favor of various unobservable, untestable, unscientific theories purporting we live on a tilting, wobbling, spinning, ball-shaped Earth. Earth is a level, motionless plane with the sun, moon, and stars revolving over and around us just as you experience every day. The North Pole is the magnetic monopole center point, with Polaris, the North Pole star, situated directly above. Polaris is the only motionless star in the heavens, with all the other constellations revolving perfect circles over the Earth every night. The so-called planets, known to the ancients as wandering stars, were named such because they were observed then, as we can observe today, to wander the heavens, taking their own unique spirograph-like patterns, making both forward and retrograde motions over and around the Earth during their cycles. Meanwhile, the fixed stars were named such because they were observed then, as we can observe today, to stay fixed in their constellation patterns night after night, year after year, century after century, never changing their relative positions. If Earth was truly a tilting, wobbling, spinning space ball, as NASA and modern astronomy proclaim, rotating 1,000 miles per hour on its axis, revolving 67,000 miles per hour around the sun, spiraling 500,000 miles per hour around the galaxy, and shooting off several million more miles per hour through the universe, the star patterns would never look the same 2 nights in a row, let alone be fixed in exactly the same constellations for thousands upon thousands of years. The reality is that the Earth and Polaris do not move, while everything else in the heavens revolves over Earth and around Polaris, east to west, like in a planetarium dome. Our Earth planetarium, however, is so vast that perspective won't allow any observer to see all the stars simultaneously from any one vantage point. We can see Polaris, Ursa Major and Minor, and other northern constellations from every point north of the equator simultaneously, but conversely cannot see the so-called South Pole star, Sigma Octantis, the Southern Cross, or other outer constellations simultaneously from every point south of the equator, because they all sweep over a great southern arc from their rise in the evening to their setting in the morning. Facing north, the stars turn counterclockwise from right to left. Facing south, they turn clockwise from left to right. Facing east, they rise in front and set behind, while facing west, they rise behind and set in front. So their apparent motion, angle, and inclination changes depending where you are on Earth and what direction you are facing. But their actual movement is always east to west. to accepting globe indoctrination. Unlike the cardinal directions on a compass rose, north, south, east, and west on Earth are not simply straight lines separated by 90 degrees. North, rather than being an upward shooting arrow, is actually a point, a center point, the center point of the entire Earth, known as the geographic North Pole, situated directly below Polaris, the North Pole star, the only motionless star in the heavens, which marks the exact northern center point of the sky. South, rather than being a downward shooting arrow, is actually every line tangent to the northern center point, or in other words, every straight line extending outwards from the North Pole heads due south. East and west, rather than being right and left facing arrows, are actually clockwise and counterclockwise circles around the pole. The sun, moon, and stars all rise in the east and set in the west, making perfect circles over and around us every day. As you can observe, they travel in a circular westward path over and around the Earth, and do not all travel in a straight leftward direction as suggested by a compass rose. Likewise, navigators since ancient times have used Polaris to guide their ships, knowing that Polaris was the heavenly North Pole. South was traveling keeping your back to Polaris. East meant traveling keeping your left shoulder 90 degrees to the pole star, and west meant traveling keeping your right shoulder 90 degrees to the pole star. All circumnavigations in history have been eastwards or westwards, and never northwards or southwards, because the latter is geographically impossible. Likewise, southern hemisphere flights from Australia to South America, or New Zealand to South Africa, for example, never fly the shortest, most direct route on a globe, which would be southwards over Antarctica. It is claimed this is because such flights would allegedly be too cold for any airplanes to handle. But the reality is the routes are geographically impossible because Antarctica is not a tiny ice continent confined to the underside of a spherical spinning ball Earth. Antarctica is actually the outer southern perimeter of our level motionless plain Earth and surrounds the other 6 continents. How far southwards Antarctica actually extends, and how it terminates, or what exists beyond it, are all unknown to and kept from the general public, however, and as a result, no completely accurate, fully functioning flat Earth map exists or could exist without the people being first allowed full, independent exploration of the Arctic, Antarctic, and everywhere else. There are, however, several maps which work as good visual aids for approximating the geography of our flat stationary Earth. The Gleason's 1892 New Standard Map of the World and Hammond's 1945 Air Age Map of the World are 2 such maps. These so-called azimuthal equidistant maps are used in practical navigation and can be found in the logos of the United Nations, World Health Organization, International Maritime Organization, and International Civil Aviation Organization. In the flat Earth model, the South Pole does not exist at all, and Antarctica is instead a gigantic ice wall extending the circumference of Earth, holding in the oceans like a giant bowl or a World Cup. As strange as this concept may sound at first, it is a fact that if you set a bearing due south from anywhere on Earth, inevitably at or before 78 degrees southern latitude, you will find yourself face to face with an enormous ice wall towering 100 to 200 feet in the air, extending to the east and west the entire circumference of the world. General Greely in Antarctica or the Hypothetical Southern Continent wrote, "The ice barrier, so frequently referred to in accounts of the Antarctic regions, is the forefront of the enormous glacier covering or ice cap, which, accumulating in vast undulating fields from the heavy snowfall, and ultimately attaining hundreds if not thousands of feet in thickness, creeps from the continent of Antarctica into the polar sea. The ice barrier, yet a part of the parent ice cap, presents itself to the navigator who has boldness enough to approach its fearful front as a solid perpendicular wall of marble-like ice ranging from 1,000 to 2,000 feet in thickness, of which from 100 to 200 feet rises above, and from 800 to 1,800 feet sinks below the level of the sea. Antarctica is not the tiny ice continent found confined to the underside antipode of astronomers' globes. Quite the contrary, Antarctica literally surrounds us 360 degrees, encircles every continent, and acts as a barrier holding in the oceans. The most commonly asked questions, and the greatest mysteries yet to be solved are, how far does the Antarctic ice extend outwards? Is there a limit? What lies beyond, or is it just snow and ice forever? Thanks to UN treaties and constant military surveillance, the North Pole and Antarctica remain cloaked in government secrecy, both purported no-fly and no-sail zones, with several reports of civilian pilots and captains being shooed away and escorted back under threats of violence. Dr. Samuel Robotham wrote, "How far the ice extends, how it terminates, and what exists beyond it are questions to which no present human experience can reply. All we at present know is that snow and hail, howling winds, and indescribable storms and hurricanes prevail, and that in every direction human ingress is barred by unsealed escarpments of perpetual ice, extending farther than the eye or telescope can penetrate, and becoming lost in gloom and darkness."
In the Vedic Bhagavatam cosmology, Harikrishna.com, it is professed that this Earth is a plane that may be 1 billion miles in diameter, as you can see on the screen. The Lokaloka Mountains correspond to the ice walls of Antarctica. The latter is explained in flat Earth theories as not being a continent at the bottom of globe Earth, but a high barrier of ice at the periphery of what we know of our world.
Over 100 years ago, the Hawaiian Gazette published a story about a map that was made in the 10th century.
This newly discovered map is drawn on the principles of the Mercator projection, echoes the current accepted flat Earth model, as well as the UN flag. However, there is one significant difference, and that is that our dome is surrounded by dozens of islands.
Reputed to be drawn by Chinese priests, the manuscript was hidden away from authorities for centuries. However, a letter found claims that the map was actually drawn by Buddhist priests much earlier in time.
The article goes on to read, "The map was found by my brother in a Japanese temple in the mountains of Japan," said Dr. Kabayashi. "It has been hidden from the Japanese government in modern times, just as it was in ancient times. For in olden days, such a map would have been destroyed by the authorities."
This begs the question, why would the authorities be so concerned about a map that they would destroy it?
A globe Earth, because unproven, is pseudoscience, yet believed worldwide and passed from generation to generation, and any who question it is mocked and ridiculed. For millennia, well-educated people believed the Earth was flat and placed at the center of the universe, enclosed there with a protective covering. In the early 16th century, Nicolae Copernicus introduced a different model of the universe in which the Sun lay at the center, and the Earth revolved around it. Copernicus' heliocentric model is taught today, while the earlier geocentric model has been utterly rejected. Less than 100 years later, Galileo was persecuted by the Catholic Church for promoting Copernicus' theory and forced to recant his beliefs and spend the last years of his life under house arrest. The Catholic Church advanced Copernicus' heliocentric model, constantly urging him to spread it abroad, together with other theories that opposed the sacred scriptures. The necessity to change public conception from an accurate belief in a flat, enclosed Earth to a false belief grew slowly. With sapient baby steps, the whole world would become amenable to the final delusion of an alien invasion under the first woe. The Catholic hierarchy had the perfect opportunity to lay groundwork for a global deception to culminate in this Earth's final generation. This deception required a globe Earth spinning throughout the vast reaches of space, space inhabited by aliens and other sentient life forms. These contrivances created doubt in the Bible, putting science ahead of Scripture, which advises mankind the earth is enclosed and unmoving. They also place the Creator far away from His creation by presenting a universe unimaginably vast. A globe Earth, its orbit of the Sun for millions of miles every year, illimitable realms of space with billions of galaxies, each composed of billions of stars with worlds innumerable. All this became necessary to explain the new heliocentric model of the universe, and mankind, over a short time, lost his divine significance. Thereafter was created an environment within which the writings of Charles Darwin found a receptive audience. Once science showed the Bible wrong, the disparager then diverged from her religious guise altogether. Anything suddenly became possible. There was nothing above question, including how the earth seemed to appear in the vastness of space with all else, and the existence of extraterrestrials. The Big Bang Theory is, today, the leading explanation about how the universe began. At its simplest, it talks about the universe as we know it, starting with a small singularity, then inflating over the next 13.8 billion years to the cosmos that we know today. Follow from cause to effect. 1. Without a globe Earth circling the Sun through the far reaches of space, we do not have the Big Bang. 2. Without the Big Bang, we do not have evolution. 3. Without evolution, we are more likely to accept creation as an act of intelligent design by a divine creator. The Roman Catholic Church does, in fact, accept evolution. Acceptance of evolution and its integral law of survival of the fittest gave rise to the bloodbaths of the 20th century in which millions lost their lives. Numerous researchers have established incontrovertible connections between the Vatican and the Nazi Party. Regardless of the level of collaboration between the Vatican and the Nazis, what happened after World War II is even more significant. Operation Paperclip smuggled hundreds of Nazi scientists, including top SS officers on trial for war crimes, into the United States for use in America's Cold War space race. One of these Nazi Party members, Wernher von Braun, was promoted to head up NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. Under Operation Paperclip, some 350 German scientists and former intelligence agents were given visas and well-paying jobs. Many of these scientists had questionable pasts. Braun himself had been an active member of the Nazi Party, and his colleague at NASA, Dr. Hubertus Struggold, a specialist in aviation medicine, had performed experiments on concentration camp inmates. The purpose of this massive and illegal undertaking appears to have been for the establishment of a worldwide authority on all things relating to space and astronomy. NASA became the public face of space. It has long acted as a front, providing an unsuspecting world with pseudoscience legitimized by the backing of the U.S. government. NASA is its own monopoly. It controls the dissemination of public information on astronomy while hiding facts it does not want the public to know. While many countries and universities have observatories, Always it is the statements, photographs, and discoveries of NASA that make the news headlines. With NASA in charge of the flow of astronomical information to the public, it appears the Vatican has remained a central player in the truly accurate astronomy not being released to the public. For hundreds of years, the Vatican has owned more telescopes and observatories than any organization, private university, or government. NASA and the Vatican jointly own Lucifer, the world's largest binocular telescope. According to the official Vatican website, the Vatican Observatory is one of the oldest astronomical institutes in the world. And yet, where are the photographs? Where are the news releases of the latest discoveries? Precisely what have the Jesuit astronomers been doing for the last 500 years? Only they know.
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
To start today on an organized and well-supported space program, I believe a practical passenger immediately clamped on the outside to protect it from meteors. The first workday in space draws to a close. Every 24 hours, the shell of the station is completed. Now comes a delicate task.
The flight crew has completed the final launch vehicle range safety checks. At T-minus 50 seconds, the launch vehicle will be on full internal power. That begins the actual launch sequence. The weather's reported good, scattered clouds at 10,000 feet. All systems are go, all lights are green. We're at T-minus 3 minutes, 6 seconds, mark.
12, 1, 10, 9, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. It's even perhaps easier than the simulations of 16G that
We performed various simulations on the ground. Okay.
What was it we were really celebrating? 3 men who had done what no man before had done? A technological feat that was believed beyond the realm of possibility?
Here is the real reason for the fake moon landings. You just proved by putting a man on the moon, 1, the moon is a rock in space, and 2, the Earth is a little blue ball floating in space. Now nobody will ever suspect he is living on a gigantic ball. Now the Phoenix worshippers have a whole new planet for themselves. Mission accomplished. Bigger lies will follow.
Ever made in the White House.
Yeah, you went straight through those Van Allen belts. It wasn't a problem, right? Nothing was felt. But now you say it's a problem and you can't get through. This problem needs to be solved, according to you. But didn't you solve that problem back in '69 and you flew straight through them 5 more times? You wonder why I think it's fake when there are so many Apollo mistakes, like the telemetry data that's all gone missing. 13,000 reels, are you kidding? A giant leap for all mankind, but you lost the data and no one can find. Come on, man, are you kidding? Do you still believe we went to the moon? Do you still believe what they're telling you? Just connect the dots and pretty soon you'll find out what I found out too. But if you question this stuff, you'll be labeled a loon. You'll be called a conspiracy theory buffoon, but I don't care, man. I'm still gonna make this juke, cause I know that you can't go. No, there's no blast crater from the lunar module. Probably because that thing is just a model. Or the flag that flutters with no atmosphere. Don't you think that's a bit queer? Intersecting shadows means another light source. Do I think it's fake? Yeah, of course. The whole thing was filmed on a Hollywood set. Directed by Kubrick is my best bet. The moon's so cool, we'd love to explore it, but we can't get past low Earth orbit. Do your research, people, I think you'll find. But NASA admits that a bunch of times. Listen.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Everybody starts sending supplies to their bases. When the public demands an explanation for the trillions of dollars spent, The main alibis are 1. The building of the fake space station ISS. 2. The launch of fake satellites. 3. The exploration of the fake space. 'All of these lies are amplified by the mind control machine. So, you need people for the bigger Earth. How do you do that? Well, you invent the story of the secret space program. During the war, the Nazis were experimenting with anti-gravitation. After the war, this technology was brought to the United States. By now, the United States have some super advanced spacecraft. And they are building bases on the Moon and on Mars. Hey, aren't you interested? Sure, they put you on a high-speed underground train and they tell you you are on a spacecraft flying to Mars. They release you on the bigger Earth and there you see a different sun and you breathe different air. So now you think you are on Mars. So you think you are on a little red ball flying in space, and the people on Earth think they are flying on a little blue ball in space. Mission accomplished. That confirms the idea there is only one global ruling world government.
Velocity 2,900 feet per second, altitude 9 nautical miles, downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
This is not standard. This is not something that is planned, of course.